Hey there everyone, this is David Howington. I'm a trainer over at HPI at IBJI in Highland Park, and today I'm coming at you with a couple of tips to help you get ready for the Glencoe Grand Prix. Today we're going to talk about hip hinge and RDL. The hip hinge, first, is one of our most basic movements that we work on that's going to really help you better work your hamstrings and your glutes. Alright, so at the basis of it, you want to think about pushing your hips back, keeping your back nice and flat, and getting a feeling in the hamstrings. A couple things to note though is as you perform this movement, your shins should not come forward. So when you do the hip hinge, right now at the moment we don't want to think about bending the knees. We want to think about keeping the shins right where they're at. So they shouldn't move forward and they shouldn't move back. You're going to push the hips back. Now, another thing to note is I'm bending at the hips, keeping my core engaged so that my spinal position doesn't move. Alright, so when I come up, if you notice, I'm not bending like this, laying my back around, and I'm not bending like this, pushing my hips out, arching my back too much. I'm rather just getting that core engaged and pushing the hips back, keeping a nice, good positioning the whole entire time. On the way up, at the finish, you want to think about squeezing your glutes. And you're going to do that just a couple times. So just continue to practice this movement until you can get to the point where you can really get a good bend at the hips, keeping the back nice and flat, and squeezing the glutes at the top, all the while making sure those shins stay perpendicular to the ground. All right, from there, we're going to carry it forward. We're going to add a little weight. So now this is what I call an RDL. All right, basically it's a weighted hip hinge. So what you want to think about is as you do this, again, you're going to bend at the hips, keeping that core tight, keeping the shins perpendicular, and then you're going to come up and squeeze the glutes at the top. All right. Notice a couple things to make that I see is a lot of times when people do this, they actually let the weight stay directly under their shoulders. All right. Now, if you do this, you'll notice all of a sudden I'm getting a lot of pressure on my low back that I don't want to get. All right. We want to try to keep the low back out of it as much as possible. So as you bend at the hips, think about your shoulders coming forward over the weight. All right. So I push my hips back. My shoulders actually come over the weight in front of it, and then I come back up. All right? It's important to do that to make sure that, again, you keep that low back out of it. All right, so that right there is the hip hinge and the RDL. If you're going to go moderate weight, you want to do about 3 sets or about 8 to 10 reps.